destiny. Um, but I was just wondering because we already got the ball rolling, like, how do you guys feel about free will or karma? Like, would anybody have some inspiration? Like, do you believe, like, free will seemed like an obvious one, but I know I was speaking to my father recently. He was quoting a person I didn't know so well, but he's called Sam Harris. He doesn't even believe in free will so much. We were having a conversation about this. So I just wanted to know from the audience, also give me some platform to understand the mentalities of the people. Someone has inspiration, like, do you believe in free will? And what about karma? Have you heard of karma? Do you believe in karma? I would like to hear from if anyone wants. Anyway, I don't mind to speak and everyone can listen unless
I'm
some brave person.
everybody's shy here.
No problem. Well, let's just Google it. Let's Google what is destiny. Events that will necessarily happen to a particular person or thing, generally referring to the future. So it's kind of an interesting subject. And to give you guys some context, like I come from a particular yoga tradition I've been practicing fairly dedicated for the last 10 years or more. And that yoga, bhakti yoga ties a lot into Vedic literatures. So today also I want to touch on some of the wisdom of like the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Sutras a little bit. I would like to touch just on this topic of destiny and free will and karma. But the idea is that yeah, destiny it's like something that's already fixed, and it's almost like there's nothing we can really do to change it. And as of now, I don't have like an answer for you like we had in the beginning. Like, dude, let's just flesh it out and see what happens. Um, but just some like foundational context from the perspective that we're approaching the subject from, which requires like a theoretical understanding or acceptance. And that's the kind of Vedic concept of the living being and the value of the human form of life. So there is a part of the Bhagavad Gita that refers to the living entity as Prakriti-stha is a Sanskrit word. Stha means kind of like fixed or submerged, or we have this word stamba means like a pillar or a post. And Prakriti is kind of referring to the material energy. So there's a description of us, like you, me, and all the living beings in this world as Prakriti star, which means kind of like embedded within the material energy. Like if you imagine like your existence kind of like submerged and encapsulated by the material energy. And the reason that I bring it up is because we need this kind of like theoretical, like at least in the beginning, theoretical kind of concept of the living being as separate from matter, as separate from the body, in order to deal with the subject of destiny and karma and free will. So this is the first, at least theoretical lesson is that you, me, the living being, although now temporarily within this body, like I'm from Australia, I'm a boy, I have a wife, I live here. Like all of these are kind of temporary external designations placed on the consciousness or the soul or the life force or whatever word you want to use for the living being. So that's the first kind of like, actually, that's the first lesson of the Bhagavad Gita. Just kind of, we're going to discuss it a little bit today. That actually, this body you have will finish, but you, the living being, will continue. Um, and therefore, like the Vedic culture and the yogic teachings, they place a lot of emphasis on the human form of life as a very kind of unique and important opportunity for you to be able to um, inquire is definitely the best word, actually. Kind of like the first Vedic sutra given in the Vedanta Sutra to Tattva Brahma Jignasa, like, okay, like now, which like means like now you've come to the human form of life, Tattva Brahma Jignasa, Jignas, like question, like now you should inquire into Brahman, which means like spirit. Now you've come to the human form of life. Now you have this opportunity where you can actually like discuss about spirituality and religion and like, the concept of like, existence before life, existence after life, meaning all these things. We have experienced that we have this, what's the word, like facility in the human form of life to kind of inquire and discuss. And the Vedic culture, the Yogic culture is inquiring you, like, yes, you should inquire, you should ask questions. So this is the valuable part of the human experience, is actually like inquiring into these more like intricate, I don't know if you can say like nuances of existence, especially like those really fundamental questions about, like who are we on the existential level, where if we've come from somewhere, where have we come from, where are we going? So these are really fundamental questions that we should take advantage of in the human form of life. So today we're not focusing so much on like where we came from and where we're going, or a little bit where we're going, because we're dealing with the concept of destiny. But we're more focusing on this concept of destiny and these like more subtle things. So that's just a little foundation that I want to then go into what we call in yoga the three modes of material nature. You might have heard of them before, especially if you're into like some Ayurveda or if you're into some yoga. But basically, sattva, rajas, and tamas, like goodness, passion, and ignorance. And I don't want to spend the whole presentation going into the modes of material nature. Like I believe it's the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, but I forget exactly. Like there's a whole section you can, research yourself, which kind of breaks down the material modes of nature and how they work and how they interact. But how it's relevant to destiny is going to be revealed. But just so we're all on the kind of like same platform, or we have like the kind of basic understanding, like the modes of material nature it's basically a breakdown of how the material energy interacts with us and how we're interacting with like the world around us. And it's divided into three: goodness, passion, and ignorance, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So it's kind of overly simplified to just say like, yeah, goodness is like this and ignorance is like this, but just for the sake of like, this conversation, we'll break it down a little bit. Like generally, like as you have in the name sattva, like translated as goodness, the sattva mode of material energy is generally associated with goodness. And that doesn't just necessarily mean like being good, like helping the old lady cross the street or whatever. Goodness generally refers to like light, illumination, being healthy, good qualities, being calm, being kind, being compassionate, you know, the kind of, how to say, like nice, comfortable, stable parts of the material world is considered to be like in the mode of goodness or sattva. And in yoga, we're always aspiring to associate with the mode of goodness. We're trying to be in the mode of goodness, basically trying to like exist in the mode of goodness, which means like, rising early, taking care of your body. And that doesn't mean like, passion, like big, beautiful, like, doing asanas, pranayama, meditation, like still, calm, slow down, like present, being in the moment. This is all goodness, very much being in the present, whereas generally rajas or passion is associated with like the future, looking into the future, working hard now so that in the future I can have the things that I need or whatever. This is very much like a passionate state of being. They say that, goodness in the beginning it's like poison, but at the end it's like nectar. So I don't know if you have this experience. Like it's not the best example, but sometimes like you you want to wake up really early and do some meditation or some spirituality, and it's like, oh, you got to like wake off the ignorance, and like it's kind of like get in the right frame of mind and like kind of discipline and regulation and control yourself, really push yourself. So in the beginning it's a bit tough, but then afterwards you feel so good. You know, like wow, I'm so happy that I like woke up and I did the right thing and everything's good. So poison at the beginning, nectar at the end, where Rajas, the mode of passion, is considered like how to say poison in the beginning. Sorry, nectar in the beginning, but poison in the end, which is usually like, you know, not the best example, probably not relevant to everyone, but go to some party and it's so much fun and yeah, having a great time, or you know, going out to dinner and eating a lot of food and having like, you know, lots of fun. It's really good. But then after you have to digest everything, or if you get sick or you ate the wrong thing, or if you were like drinking or whatever, like, you know, then you have to deal with the reaction. So it was fun at the start and didn't end well. So passion is all about like enjoyment, you know, wanting to like big and beautiful and strong and enjoy and you know accumulate wealth and all this stuff. Like this is very very much passion. And then ignorance, uh, like same like darkness, you know, basically like sleeping, drugs, being dirty, like not cleaning, not being clean, everything messy. Is like ignorant mode of nature. So this is the three modes of the material energy, and it's really interesting to kind of um, be familiar with the material modes of nature, because then throughout our day we can also kind of analyze or understand how the material energy is affecting us. And as time goes on, you can kind of observe how the material energy shifts. Like, you know, in the morning, like just before the sun comes up, it's really like sattvic. It's very goodness. It's very quiet. The world is quiet. Everything's good. It's beautiful. The birds are waking up. It's really nice. And as the sun comes up, the kind of passionate modes come in. Everything starts to move. You know, you start to hear the traffic. Everything comes alive. The whole world kind of wakes up. And like this, the modes change throughout the day, and you can begin to observe and experience. And the reason that that's useful and that's part of the conversation today is because actually we want to aspire, like with our free will, which hopefully we'll get to, we want to aspire to be in goodness. Because if we're in goodness, this is like a very nice platform to practice spiritual life. It's how they call it, a stepping board onto the spiritual platform from goodness. Like a very, very, very like it's not the goal, but it's the place to be in order to deal with with the material world. So keep the modes in your mind. We're gonna again like all these concepts hopefully will come together. Um, but there's a verse from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. I forget the Sanskrit right now, but there's one word which describes the material energy as puryat. And puryat is a Sanskrit word which means filling in. And it describes the material energy and the material modes of nature as puryat, filling in. So Vedic literature, they many times they come in the sutras, and sutras are very like they're like small, concise, like little, almost like mantras, you can say, like sentences that generally they need to be unpacked. So, Poryat, let's unpack the filling in. What does it mean, the filling in of material energy, and why is it relevant, the filling in of the material energy? So basically, um, in the Vedic tradition, they're breaking down the elements of the material world, not just like the material modes of nature, but like from gross to subtle elements, like just to rattle it off for you, like earth, water, fire, air, ether, like the five gross elements from gross to subtle: earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then mind, intelligence, and the ego, false ego, which is generally like the being misidentifying with the material world when actually you're of a transcendental um, transcendental substance. But the reason that I'm talking about the material elements, earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, is because there's something called the chitta. And I'm sorry to go like Vedic and technical on you, but it's kind of interesting. Hopefully it all comes together. But the chitta is basically the pre-egoistic mind, if that makes sense. So like everyone has this chitta, And basically what happens is we have two cameras, these two eyes, recording everything. And it's not just the eyes, it's all of our senses. Like everything we do leaves impressions in chitta, in the pre-egoistic mind. You could say like the consciousness. Everything we do is leaving impressions. So how does this relate into the puriyat or the filling in? So if you imagine like walking on a beach, like the waves have just come in and the sand is a little bit wet, and if you walk, it leaves like footprints in the sand. And I don't know, like when you're a kid and you break your arm and you get this cast from plaster of Paris. So if you imagine like these impressions in the sand, if you take plaster of Paris and fill it, it'll create like that'll act as a mold, and it'll create like an impression of the thing that was there before. So with the plaster of Paris, you can make the foot in the sand. So, or like for example, maybe something else you can think. I don't know, like sometimes you have a mold, or these people they like blow glass, like, and these shapes come and they have a mold and they shape it into different things. So the puriyat or the filling in of the material energy is basically everything we do leaves impressions in the consciousness. And the way that the material energy works is those impressions, the material energy fills into these impressions. And you can like, so the foot in the sand, and then all of a sudden you have like a replica of the foot and the leg. So similarly, the impressions of the things that we do as we go about our existence leave impressions in the chitta, and then the material energy fills into these impressions, and that is what is like our destiny basically. And if you look at it from the Vedic yogic perspective, that is another life, another body, you know, another birth, another body, another destiny. And that's how the material nature is basically um, interacting with our impressions. So then, so how does it work then if it's like, okay, so then how does it work with destiny, with free will, with karma? Like these concepts are all interrelated. So how you know what am I trying to get at here? Basically, karma is like you can say like cause and effect. You know, everyone kind of has this concept of karma. You know, you do something and you get a reaction. Um, so the kind of picture that I'm trying to create for you is that as you go about doing your activities, you are leaving impressions in your consciousness that will later on, according to the yoga teachings, manifest into your like external reality, actually, which is quite quite a lot to get the head around, but just try with me, you know. Everything we're doing is leaving impressions that later on will manifest as our destiny. So what does that mean? Does it mean like, you know, I should be like kind to everyone? I should be like, you know, I should like act in such a way so that I have like a good like future, like a good destiny. You know, I should like do things that are good and not bad. Um, actually, in yoga, we're taught that when you're dealing with karma and impressions and actions and reactions, actually, uh, it's not that we want to do good work or bad work or any kind of work. Actually, the yogi, he wants to be situated on the transcendental platform, which means even though he's in the world, he's not of the world. Even though externally it seems like he's engaging in different activities in the world, actually he's not entangled and he's not caught up in any of the reactions of the material world because of his consciousness. So this is an important teaching of the Gita, that it's based on like the consciousness that we have behind activities which determine the degree of entanglement or non-entanglement, you can say. So therefore, the goal is not to do good work or to do how to say like be good in the world and leave like a good impression. Like, yeah, all these things are important, and yes, like, you know, but for the yogi, actually, the goal is not to be good. The goal is to have divine consciousness, to have a divine consciousness and not be entangled or influenced by any of these things. And that is called Shakshitva. Shakshitva, Shakshi it means witness. Some people may have heard of this story of Shakshi Gopal, which we won't get into, but Shakshi means witness. So Shakshita means a state of witness, witnessness. I don't think that's a word. Witnesshood. A state of witnessing. It's actually like a state of goodness where we're situated in the self and we can see like all the things happening around us. You can imagine like, a big ocean, like going all the way around, so many things happening, but we're not disturbed because we're in a state of witness. We're able to see like the workings of the senses, the workings of the mind, the workings of the world, because we're situated in this like state of goodness. Sakshitva is like a state of goodness. We're actually not, how to say, like disturbed or affected by the workings. We're able to witness all these things happening around us, like our senses going, our senses being attached to the sense objects, and then also the material energy influencing us. And from this state of like being a witness, it's actually a very favorable position to how to say, uh, deal with the material energy in the world around us. So I'm going to go into that practically. I'll try to get into that a little bit practically. Right? I don't know if you ever had this experience where you set out maybe to do something good. Like, I don't know, it happens to me a lot. Like I have some time, I have like maybe 45 minutes. Okay, let me listen to some lecture, or like I'll like educate myself. I'll do something efficient with my time. Let me hear some lecture or something. So I'll go on my phone, I'll go and I'll start searching. And then after some time, I realized like I've just been derailed. I ended up on some like some nonsense thing or um, some shorts or whatever. Like I just derailed myself. Like I had a good intention to, elevate my consciousness in a positive way, and I ended up just like being in passion and ignorance. So I don't know if you've had this experience. I'm sure it happens to everyone all the time, or you want to follow some diet, or you want to do some exercise, or whatever it is, and we get derailed. So how is it? Why is it like this? Well, for example, like I don't know if you ever like go in a bushwalk, or if you're ever like just walking and you come to like a fork in the road, and you don't know whether to go left or you don't know whether to go right. So usually, what's our experience? We come to this place, or like, oh, I'm going to listen to some lecture. What lecture should I listen to? We come to this fork in the road, and then what do? We usually wait, and then we wait for like some inspiration or some answer to come from within us. Like, okay, I'm going to go left, or I'm going to go right, and then maybe we analyze it with our intelligence. Maybe we break it down. But if I go left, well, the left path looks like no one went there for a long time, could be dangerous, whatever. But we wait for this kind of like impression to come within the mind, to come to us, inspiration to come, this answer to come. So the yogic kind of explanation is like because of impressions and things that we've done in the past, we think that actually this decision is coming because of me, but actually it's almost like coming from the material energy. And there's a verse like this in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, Prakriti Kriyamani Gunai Karmani Stavashaham. It's saying that the living being thinks he's free, ahankar, because of the false ego, he thinks that he's making decisions in real time, but actually these decisions are carried out by the modes of material nature, which is an interesting thing to meditate on for a second. We think that we're free, we think that we're making decisions, but actually these decisions are coming through the material modes of nature. The material energy is acting through us based on impressions of the past. So then all of a sudden it's like, did I just remove the free will aspect? Like, where is free will then? How does it work? So destiny, what? Destiny is fixed. There's nothing you can do. Material modes are acting. Material energy is acting. So we're helpless. There's nothing we can do. What's the situation? So just think about it for a second. It's kind of interesting. If we take the words of the Gita to be factual, at least from a intellectual, just for fun. We think that we're doing things, but we're not. But I don't know. I can pick up this thing. I can do so many stuff. I can I can do whatever I want. I'm free, right? Um, but actually, according to the Vedas, it's actually the material energy that is acting through us. Therefore, our free will is what can we do with our free will is basically establish how we want to associate with the material energy. And this, at least this is my understanding. Maybe at the end we'll have a little bit discussion and flesh out some of these points. But with our free will, with our like minute independence, we can behave in a way that is associating more with goodness and yoga. Yoga means to connect, connection, divine connection. Through our free will, we can try to associate more with goodness and put ourselves in the direction of goodness and spirituality so that when by associating with this mode, these impressions that we're creating, then the puriyat, the filling in of the material energy, is going to be more in the direction of goodness. So, so I'm laughing a little bit because it's just fun for me to think about. Like my meditation these days has really been like trying to be more in the mode of goodness because I realize like I'm so much passion and so much like running here and there and just like completely crazy guy. Even though externally you may be doing, it may even be like spiritual or yoga, but you're doing it in like a really like passionate or ignorant way. So my meditation these days is I really like the last like 2 months really made a push to be goodness means like started eating like super healthy. Like we have to eat, right? And we like to eat nice things. But then with a little bit of like our free will and a little bit of push of the intelligence, especially like a spiritualized intelligence through like a daily spiritual practice, like if we're doing meditation and yoga and all these things and kind of like taking some responsibility and control of the mind, like, okay, we have to eat. Okay, so let me try to eat in the mode of goodness, you know, and what food in the mode of goodness, very simple, take like, natural, unprocessed, not fried, deep fried, all this stuff. Let me try to, eat in the mode of goodness. Let me regulate my life. Like all these little decisions these little emphasis, these little pushings from our side to just kind of like nudge us into the mode of goodness. Like, for example, like what kind of people are we hanging out with? What the people around us, what are their goals and desires and passions and aspirations like? Because the people we hang out with is going to influence us, right? If we want to be thief, a good one, you can go hang out with the thieves. If you want to be a drunkard, go hang out with the drunkards. And if you want to be a saintly person or a yogi, go hang out with the yogis and the saints. So similarly, these are kind of like practical, conscious things we can do. Like what kind of music are we associating with? What kind of impressions are we leaving in our consciousness? What kind of things are we seeing and hearing and tasting? And all these things leave impressions in the consciousness, which if we follow the yoga teachings, is the puriyat of that is another life, another body, another destiny. So therefore, if we're conscious, and that's really the first step, to be conscious, to be present, to be sattvic, if we're conscious, then we can start to analyze and identify when the lower modes of material nature are influencing us. And initially, we may be helpless because of habit, by conditioning. We may be forced to act even against our will. We may want to, behave in such a way, or we might want to be in the mode of goodness. Like, such a good example for me, like just like waking up early in the morning, like I know my meditation is so powerful when I get up like 2 hours before the sun, but it's not so easy because you have to go to bed the night before and all these things. And then even if you do go to bed early, still you're on your phone for like however much time. But anyway, all these things, like if we're just conscious, we can start to analyze and then through intention, like just start to like chip away, just slowly, like chip away at these things that we're doing. Try to associate, like, educate ourselves like about the mode of goodness, people in the mode of goodness, places in the mode of goodness, foods in the mode of goodness, music in the mode of goodness. Like doesn't mean you can't like have your, Saturday night, like if that's what you got to do to get up the next day, like you can still, but still it's like we should be conscious and we should understand like when we're choosing the lower modes And it's like not like we have to be like mental or and feel like, oh no, I ate a chili now, I have to like, I don't know, take birth as a chili tree or something. It's not like that. It's not like that we have to be mental. It's just that it's like if we have a kind of interesting perspective about how like the material world is working, how it's influencing us, how that connects like, through yoga teachings, and if we're interested in spirituality and meditations and these kinds of things, then we can really just like try to like always tap to goodness, touch to goodness, push to goodness, and just be conscious of like the people that we're with, how it's influencing us. um, and actually, we'll notice like a shift in consciousness. We'll notice a shift in our experience because goodness is actually how we be happy in the material world, how we be peaceful and calm and happy. Like passion will be sometimes happy, sometimes sad, and usually the happiness is temporary and it just crashes into sadness. And in ignorance, we're always depressed anyway, or sleeping and kind of unconscious. Um, so really, if we want to be peaceful and happy anyway, we have to associate with the mode of goodness. And practically, we will experience it. Like if we do things in goodness, if we eat in goodness, be in goodness, think in goodness, exist in goodness, we're going to notice like a tangible change in experience. Like I was telling you, last 2 months, I'm really trying to do it. It's like living in a different world for me, just being slower, more conscious, more calm, more kind. And it's not like something that happened like this. It's something that we need to cultivate. Um, so yeah, just to kind of summarize, today we were talking about destiny, um, and it kind of left it open. If you want my kind of understanding, like destiny is a real thing, but to the degree in which it's like fixed, I don't know. My experience is that destiny is a real thing, and things happen the way that they are supposed to ultimately. And whether it's like that or whether that's just my consciousness in hindsight. But my experience is that although, things do happen, so to speak, the way that they're supposed to, doesn't mean that we're not responsible. We have to take responsibility for our actions. We have to take responsibility for our behavior, and we have to take responsibility for our existence. So I do believe in a free will. I do have an understanding of a free will because practically that's my experience, although that's a whole nother conversation. Um, and karma, I also like, we also have experiences of like instant karma, people getting reactions and stuff like this. But I think these things are not so simple and not so like how to say within the palm of our hand we can contain all these things. Um, because I wanted to kind of emphasize the importance of like human life and inquiry and spirituality, and then kind of go into the modes of material nature and how they influence us, and then try to encourage everyone to be in goodness because of the impressions that it's leaving in the consciousness. If we have this kind of understanding that yes, okay, everything we does, it leaves impressions, and then the material energy will fill into these impressions. Therefore, it's in the best interests of myself to create good impressions. And even if we don't believe or care about like another birth, another life, another like filling in of the material energy, practically, if we associate with the mode of goodness, we'll experience happiness here and now. And it's kind of just like the yogic way of existing in the world, like being in the mode of goodness. It's just the the way to do it. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure if you feel satisfied with that. I think it's a lot of conversation, but I'm definitely gonna stop. And if um anybody wants to try to flesh out some of the things, because I know we bounced around a little bit, or if something wasn't clear or anything like this, or someone just want to discuss, the floor is open.
Thank you so much. Today's talk was very interesting and I think put in a way that was really relevant. When you were speaking about at the beginning, you're talking about how we are in this body. I was reminded of an example I heard recently where when someone passes away, we say they're gone, but they're not gone. I mean, like the body is there. So then that point was used, that statement was used to make the point that clearly something's gone, and that's like the spirit beyond the body. So it just reminded me of that example of a very practical way of seeing and realizing how in everyday life, even though we may not acknowledge it, that there is something that's beyond just the body, which is spirit or consciousness.
I have to say, for me, what brings to mind is the difference between organic organisms and inanimate objects. I mean, we are made of matter, but something about organisms, even plants. I mean, plants seem inanimate, but they live and die. It's just a slower process. You see, oh, that tree is dead, but it's still standing. Whereas with us, we've stopped moving. And again, the spirit has left. I'd have to say that's probably the main difference. I'm kind of going out on a tangent here. The Japanese believe in spirit. Everything has spirit. Their word for it is kami, which is like it could be a god or it could be just a spirit that inhabits a rock or a structure that has been built. And again, I'm going out on a tangent here because I'm pulling from different traditions. But whenever I hear karma, I always think of cause and effect. And the concept of karma may be explained in different words in different cultures and traditions. Biblical explanations are whatsoever you sow, so shall you reap. Essentially, they're describing karma.
Yeah.
I like to think that I'm either getting rid of karma or the karma that I'm producing is producing waves that enhance people's lives or the lives of organisms. Maybe not necessarily fleas or ticks, but you know, cats and dogs, humans. I don't know. I thought I'd toss that out. For what it's worth.
Anyway, it's nice to think about these things because it's kind of practical in your consciousness. You can see like everything I do, it affects my consciousness. Foods, people, music, substances. Tangibly, we can experience that all of this has an effect on the consciousness. So if we kind of take a bit of a bird's eye approach and like zoom out a little bit and then see like our self, as a spiritual being having a material experience, then if we understand that like all these impressions are creating like how to say actions and reactions and entanglement, then the best interest for myself would be to have impressions that are kind of favorable and uplifting. Because it's interesting, the yogic perspective on all these impressions is actually like And I'm not saying, something bad happens to you, you should like embrace it and wow, thank you so much. Or like someone steal from you, you should like, thank you, thank you for like helping me. But actually the yogic mentality is all the things that happen to us is the filling in of the material energy. So actually, anything that happens to us is like our destiny. And, if someone steals from us or something bad happens, actually, we should not feel like, oh, I have lost or something like this. Actually, this is like, and this is a practice. I'm not saying you should like live by this today from now on. It's more like a meditation, but like, and when the bad things happen to us, like, oh, actually, I was supposed to suffer because, these are impressions that I made in the past that is now filling in. And actually, this is a lesson for me to learn how I should not behave. Like if you see someone does wrong to you, this is like a lesson for you, like how you should not be in this world or whatever. Like so many meanings you can pull out from it. But the idea is like this state of existence, this mentality means like everything that happens to us is an opportunity for us to grow. It's an impetus for us to learn and to evolve. And even the bad things are actually like a blessing in disguise. I'm not saying, we should like ask for bad things to happen to us. I don't ever. I always say, please don't let any bad things happen because I'll take shelter of the wrong thing. But when the bad things do happen, if we're having this vision and this perspective, then it's like we can take everything as an impetus for growth, everything as a lesson, and actually we can take responsibility instead of like, blaming this person, that person. Of course, like you can call a spade, and we have to perform activities practically within the material world. Um, but still, like all the things that happen to us, they're actually lessons for us to evolve and opportunities for us to grow. Um, and actually, if you're a yogi, then you have to take responsibility for it. Like, if someone steals from you, it's because you're a thief. You don't, it's not nothing to do with them. They're just the poor yacht. They're just the filling in of the material energy. And of course, they have to go through their reactions and stuff. Um, but the reason that I bring it up is because it becomes like a existential meditation and taking responsibility for everything that happens and then seeing everything in connection to you and ultimately your spiritual growth. Like everything, everything is kind of designed for you to grow and evolve as a spiritual being. That's how it works with destiny and the situation that we're in. Yeah. I see a hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna share a reflection, and had a little bit of question or wanted to hear your thoughts on it. So you mentioned that when you do activities in the mode of goodness, it feels like medicine or it feels bitter, but when you do that action, it feels really sweet, and you're actually happy that you invested your time and energy in that task. And I felt that oftentimes I wanted to be in the mode of goodness or push myself to do something that I really wanted to do, that I know it's going to make me um, a better person, or, you could even think about like waking up earlier in the morning. And I was wondering if you had any tips on how to kind of push ourselves to be in that mode of goodness when it doesn't feel so easy to do that sometimes.
Yeah, it's a really cool question. Something that I think about a lot. I think like easy said more than easy done practically is like if you associate with people in the mode of goodness, like if you hang out with people, then it become easy. Like, okay, just like because we're using an example, we want to wake up early. Like if we're just by ourselves in our space and no one's there to push us, it's not so easy. But if you're like with a bunch of people and everyone's getting up, you're also gonna get up. You know what I mean? Um, so I'd say association is a really good one. Um, I don't know if people believe in the power of prayer. I believe in the power of prayer. I think it's a good practice. Um, that can also, which is like kind of like setting intention. I think it works. At least in my experience, with the waking up early, I fluctuate through phases of fanatically rising early to fanatically not being able to rise early. Um, and pretty much me it's always like an intention, and if I screw up today, then tomorrow's another chance, and if I screw up tomorrow, then the next day is another chance, and just like never give up, never be like hard on myself, never like live in guilt, like how to say, not helpful guilt. Sometimes if we feel bad or we feel guilty, it can motivate us. It's good. Otherwise, it's useless. Give it up. Like be compassionate on yourself and just like always aspire to do better and be better and just like, keep pushing yourself and just like all these like small little intentions. My practical experience is like all of a sudden one day it's just like happening. Like, hey, I was like struggling for so many weeks and now I'm here and it's happening. And then maybe it's like that for some time and everything's good. And then again, you have to struggle because it's a material world. So it's like, when we're in the good situation, like being determined but detached, and when we're in the bad situation, being detached and still determined to be better. I think those are kind of practical things. Yeah. Like for me, it's always just the intention. Like, even if I screw up, it's again, okay, I didn't make it, but I'm gonna go again. Every moment is an opportunity to improve. Not sure if someone else want to add something to that, their experience, or if you had some reflection or your own experience. I think that's practical. Association, being with people in the mode of goodness. And then if we're on our own, then it's just being conscious and aspiring and pushing ourselves to be there. And yeah, like some practical things, like definitely um, controlling the tongue is a big one. It probably starts with that, what you eat and what you speak, and like meditation and stuff like this is definitely a good place to start.
Thank you. That was really helpful. I really resonated with the power of prayer. And I feel like when you
Yeah,
kind of write it down or you say it out, it makes the impetus to like do it a little bit stronger.
yeah,
So I think that is true. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, you can always just like be like aspiring. There's one beautiful quote, I think it's from Hegel. It says, "A man is judged by his ideal," which is something that I kept under the belt a lot because currently we may not be where we want to be. We may not be even happy with where we are, but which may or may not be healthy. Um, but a man is judged by his ideal means like that thing which we're hankering for in our heart of hearts and that we're aspiring to be and that we're trying to manifest and we're trying to become. That's a good indication of the heart, and that's something that we can like just in our own subjective experience, like yeah, I may not be where I want to be, but my mind is fixed on that and I'm going there. So like at least let me keep going in that direction, and whoever wanna like pass some judgment, like look at what I'm trying to become, not where I am now. Or at least for yourself, like okay, it may be nonsense now, but like hey, I really am sincerely trying to like improve my life in many ways. So let me be compassionate on myself that at least I have the desire to be good, or to be better. Yeah. Yeah. Being in the mode of goodness is not easy, and being in the mode of goodness in this material world is actually not possible to be purely in goodness. Goodness will always be mixed with passion and ignorance. You'll never get like pure sattva guna in the material world. It just doesn't, not possible. Um, but still, we try to do the good things. Do the good things, not the bad things. Yeah. So yeah, does anyone want to add something? Jump in, have some fun. Yeah, I think it's a good time.
Yes. I really like this last point you made, which is it's impossible to ever be in just one category, but it's our aspiration to do the best we can. And I think that's something that's worth remembering.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And uh, I think that's something I'll definitely take home, which is we're just all trying to do our best. We're
yeah,
um, we're just tiny little beings in this huge world
Yeah.
trying to do our best. It's kind of like when you look down at an ant, you're like, look at that thing go, look at it, doing its best, carrying its weight. But if someone were to look at us from an ISS view, uh, you have that same world perspective of look at all those human beings just, doing the best they can in the little resource that they have or that they've been given and so on.
Yeah, and we're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna like, okay, now our meditation, our homework for today is like, okay, everyone try to be in the mode of goodness. So then like something happens, someone step on your toe, you get angry, you whatever, like, life happens. But that doesn't mean like, oh, I failed. No, it's like we keep going forward in our march towards goodness.
Definitely. Yes, well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining our Wisdom Wednesday session. And then thank you so much, Urugaya, for taking time out of your morning to give this wonderful talk and share your insightful wisdom. It is the community that makes it so special. And we thank all of you for joining. If you are in and around the Seattle area, this this Saturday, we have our Valentine's Day Kirtan Soul Fest event. If you come 30 minutes early at 5:30, we have a fun cookie decorating part of the event that we typically don't have. So if you're interested, details can be found on our Eventbrite. That being said, thank you so much, everybody, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you.